What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Good Wolf Project. I'm your host, Jerry Scarlato, and today's conversation is with Tyler Copenhaver-Heath. Tyler is an author, host of the Bully This podcast, and first and foremost, an entrepreneur. His first business he built and sold in a matter of 8 or 9 years, and he started it under essentially a 10 roof and built it into a 21,000 plus square foot car customization company called Apex Customs. Now he's helping entrepreneurs through his company called Glaive, where he's helping level the field for all entrepreneurs so that you can more easily start and grow your business. As you'll see throughout this conversation, entrepreneurship and helping entrepreneurs is something that Tyler is very passionate about, Tyler is very driven about, and Tyler believes is his purpose on earth. It's why he's meant to be here, and it's what is going to drive him to continue to grow. All of us need something that drives us forward. And one of the things that you'll see throughout this conversation is that entrepreneurship is a very good path to help find that something for you, to help find that void that fills many people's lives. Not that you have to be this big, successful, multi-million dollar entrepreneur, but even just a matter of having, say, a small shop that you run and you enjoy and your family helps run and you guys do it together, that alone can be something that is more fulfilling than maybe a 9 to 5 job that you hate and you dislike. So you'll feel the passion coming out of Tyler throughout this whole conversation, why he thinks that entrepreneurship and having a business is such a potentially life-changing endeavor for anybody, no matter how hard it is, because it is hard. It is definitely more challenging than having a 9 to 5 job, but it does most certainly reap its own rewards. So, without further ado, and without me babbling along about how important entrepreneurship is and how much it can change your life, get your pen and paper out, get ready to take some notes on why you might want to start your own business, and enjoy this conversation with Tyler Copenhaver-Heath. Tyler, good to have you on the show, brother. I think this is going to be a great conversation because the research that I've done shows that you have basically transformed yourself from someone who started off life not in a privileged position to someone who has built something that most people would deem as being in a privileged position. I don't think you would put it that way, but nonetheless, you've built yourself into a pretty phenomenal entrepreneurial powerhouse, which is pretty incredible. I think your environment when you're young either teaches you something or it tears you down. And that goes in both ways. So I'll give you a little bit of my backstory so you can understand. I grew up in upper middle class home. My dad was an entrepreneur. He made good money. Actually, when he moved us from Baton Rouge to Cincinnati, which we were kind of talking about beforehand, he still flew back and forth every week. He did that regularly. He owned a video poker distributing company in Baton Rouge, and then eventually Baton Rouge decided to shut it down. So, of course, the business went away after that. But nonetheless, we had a good life, and I would argue that because of that, while entrepreneurship was in my blood, and I knew that that's what I wanted to do, I think it was a little. I don't want to say more difficult for me, and this isn't me like throwing a pity party, but I know that because of his success and because of the ease of our life, that I had to figure out a way to push myself and drive myself differently.
Yeah.
Whereas when you grow up in a scenario where you're literally scraping to figure things out, then you
Yeah.
have a more existential drive. You have a
Yeah.
more drive like in your belly that really pushes you to get to grow.
Yeah.
So tell me about your beginning, because that I think that's kind of where you started and how that started to build kind of that ability inside of you to want to end up where you are. Not that you had that vision, but you built those skills and abilities early for sure.
Yeah. No. And what's funny is like, I didn't even know them. I was building them, right? They seemed so counter to what you would believe would be building you something for later. It's like I just made actually a video yesterday talking about my first job. I grew up in government housing, and the landlord was this really nice old man, and he took a liking to me. And my first job, my first task with him was, he was old, so he got in the backhoe and he'd lift the backhoe, lift concrete up with the backhoe, the bucket, and then I would smash it with a sledgehammer and I'd load it into the scoop, and we did this all summer. It was a big apartment complex. And, like I realize now that situation was building me for my future. That was my first job. I've pretty much had jobs and work, jobs in school, 2 jobs, that sort of stuff for the past, my whole life since 13, basically. It's like that perfectly prepared me for entrepreneurship. I didn't know that at the time. I thought I was just a kid that was going to high school and wanted to be able to have clothes and food because I grew up on welfare and, like that sort of stuff. It's like, so I thought actually, but what's weird is I was building the work ethic, right? And the work ethic, I think, is one of the most important parts of entrepreneurship, but I didn't have the mental part yet. Right. I really believed that I was destined for like almost like a factory worker job, or maybe a little bit better than that. Like I didn't believe, I would love to say, hey, I sold candy bars at 13 years old. I always believed that I could be an entrepreneur. That actually didn't feel like a path that I could have. It didn't feel like one that was achievable for me. And not to throw a pity party on myself, but like I wasn't real treated fair in school either. It was a rather small town that I grew up in. And they all knew that my dad was in prison, and so like I was always the kid that like something went missing, I did it, like I was the kid that people's parents, they didn't want them hanging out with me, by default. I was the kid that like I was told I was stupid, I would never amount to anything in life, these things, and you believe it because it's adults, right? And it's funny, I have a bully podcast that I do with a long-term MMA training partner of mine, Clifford, who was in the UFC. And I didn't even realize that was being bullied until we started the podcast. It's like, but then like, I guess you start to have some wins in life, little ones at first, right? And those little wins, and because let's face it, if you have a work ethic, you're going to have little wins. That's going to happen, right? You're going to go and you're going to be high performing in whatever crappy job you have, and people are going to take notice of that, and you're going to do well in that, right? Or I was lucky enough, I went to apply for a lube tech job when I was 21 years old, I think. And they're like, no, we don't want you in the shop. We actually want you to consider selling. And that sales job was like one of the best things that happened for my career too. I became the #1 salesman in my first month. Like I worked in auto dealerships, which is the hardest the hardest sale you'll ever make, right? Because people walk in hating you and you have to talk them into buying something. But I did so well at it because all I knew was customer service from my job. So I provided good customer service. I cared about people. If I said I was going to call them back, I called them back. I kept to my word, that sort of stuff. And I skyrocketed in my sales career, like fastest promoted ever in 60 stores. I was a floor manager, the youngest ever at like 23 years old. I was closing deals at a 90% rate, not by bullying people into them, but by literally just providing logic around them and taking care of them with good customer service. It's like, and all that tied together, right? And then I feel like I've probably given enough background on that, but it's like those little wins in life, I think. And then you dared a bigger one. I guess I could add that like my first big risk was I felt like I had a bunch of doors closed in my face. And I do want to preface, like younger generation out there, you're in now an environment where you don't have to go to college. Jerry, I'm considering you and I are probably around the same age, right? I'm
Yeah,
42.
I just turned 40. I think you're probably what, early 40s as well.
Yeah, 42.
Yep,
And like, I don't know if you remember, but like, if you didn't have a college degree when we were like 20 years old, you didn't have the opportunities. I'm
100%.
sorry. That's the world we were in, And so I, even though I excelled in sales, I was ready to get out of the car stuff. I didn't like people hating me, and so I wanted to get into something like I wanted to work for Spy Sunglasses or, something like that. And so even though I had all this sales acumen, by the way, I went on to manage a department for Nissan. It was the most successful one in the country. I went on to help, I actually helped eBay Motors first set up a lot of their stuff. I was on the phone with their board of directors constantly when they were setting that up. I did all these cool things by like 23 years old. House on the lake, 6-figure income, multiple cars, all that stuff, like 22, 23 years old. And, but I was like, yeah, I wanted something different. And every door was closed in my face, no school, no degree, can't do it. So that's when, like I finally dared it. So many doors closed, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to college, and I thought I was stupid. And I like, since I didn't do my, and to be fair, I didn't help myself in high school either. I didn't really try, barely graduated, like almost a high school dropout. And so I get to college, and that was so smart of me because now I have to start at all the most basic classes, and but after about a year in, I was like, you know what? I am actually doing really well. Maybe I'm not stupid, And so then I got angry, and I'm like, well, what's the hardest degree you have here? And the biggest name I could think of was biochemistry. So I ended up pursuing a degree and getting a degree in biochemistry. And, those wins, I think, allow you some confidence to like, then you open a business, then you have some successes there, then you get an MBA, you have some success there. Then you do all these cool things, like train with a bunch of amazing people and, all this stuff adds up to the like, then finally the world is your oyster. And, if I had to, ramble less than 5 minutes, I would, like boil it down to like little wins and, but people, if you can just take a message too, it's like, you don't have to go through all that. Just believe in yourself from the beginning. You don't have to go through the little wins. Those will help. That'll get you there if you need to build it, even time in the gym. Jerry, I know you're a fitness guy too. Like that's a little win you have every single day. There is not a single thing in this world that fitness is not going to help you with, like hands down. Confidence, like I have an incredible network from business, fitness, it's like I love to be able to go out and use my body for different adventures, even working long hours, like all this stuff, these little wins add together. And so I hit the nail on the head, I hope, in that rant.
Definitely, definitely. Well, we got plenty of time for more lessons as well. But yeah, I believe so. I believe being in the gym is the most effective way for you to build both your mental and physical resilience, right? The physical part makes sense to people, but the mental part happens whenever you actually push yourself in the gym. The problem is most people don't push themselves in the gym. They go in, they do something in the gym, which is always better than nothing. So I will preface by saying that doing something is always better than nothing. So if you're trying to convince yourself that you can't have the perfect workout, doing some form of workout is always better than doing no workout. I will say that. And yet there are people who fool themselves into thinking that they're doing things in the gym when all they're doing is really going in and maybe spending most of their time on the phone or just dilly
Yeah.
dallying or walking on the treadmill or whatever it is. So when you actually push yourself in the gym, when you actually train hard, when you actually go past those barriers, what you'll recognize is that your mind is the biggest barrier to the next set. Your mind is the biggest barrier to the next rep. Your mind is the biggest barrier to trying a new weight. And when you push
Yeah.
past that barrier, you build mental resilience, which then plays a part in the rest of your life. That carries forward to pushing past all of those obstacles that you're talking about and building all those wins outside of that as well. So I believe being physically active and pushing yourself physically is the best way to actually build a physical resilience makes sense, but mental resilience as well. And when you get two for one, I think there's a no-brainer why you wouldn't be spending time doing that.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I don't know where my life would be without my daily workout. It's a part of my daily life. I don't know how to live without it. It is, after you get to a certain amount of years, and you can attest to this for me too, it's like it's all about your mind. It's not even like the collateral impact is then like you look like you've work out, right? But it's all about this. I need it for this. I could actually, for the most part, I could care less about the bicep or, like overall, it's like I need it for my mind. I don't know where I'd be without it. And like the stress of being in business, you need a release like this, and so like to your point, I love because people that understand fitness understand business. They understand like social media, podcasting, like education. They understand all these things because I can tell you right now, and everybody's going to get this. It's like, hey, you think you're going to show up to the gym one day and it's going to make a bit of difference? If you only go for one day, is it going to make a bit of difference? But the weird thing is like people don't want to see that in business or like in social media and podcasting, anything else. It's like, hey, if you produce one podcast, is that like any good? No, it's like showing up the one day in the gym. If you work one day in your business, it's the same thing. It's like, so people that like have gotten into fitness athletics, I work with a lot of different people, like athletes, fitness people really get how to take that like mindset and like pull that into other things. And so that's another way you can like start building wins is start with just your body. Everybody can do that, so
100%. So let me go back to your sales job. So
yeah,
it sounds ironic. You would have potentially actually ended up in that factory workers job and going
yeah,
that factory workers route had they accepted your original application.
yep,
But luckily, by serendipity alone, it sounds like they chose to put you down a different path for whatever reason. They saw something in you. They believed in you for some reason. They needed some help in the sales department, whatever that
yeah.
reason was. They plugged you in over there. Otherwise, you would have fulfilled your own destiny, at least to some degree. Maybe it wouldn't have been fully fulfilled, but it would have started there, right? It would have started
I mean,
exactly where you thought you were going to go.
totally, without a doubt. And like I was bartending at the time too. And so that I was just trying to pick up a second job. Right. And then after my first month of selling, like I was working like, I don't know, like 80 hours a week selling. And I was also bartending at night too. And then finally they're like, Tyler, you got to get rid of this extra job, and I worked every single day my first month I worked there. But they gave me a test. Like they gave every single employee that or like potential employee that came in there some sort of test, and I scored in it in a way that they're like, and maybe they liked me too, I don't know. They're like, no, let's put you on the sales floor. You're going to make way more money, than you would in the loop tech. And to be honest, like that was another like mental limitation because I actually wanted to sell at some point. So I figured if I started in the loop tech job, they would like me for my work ethic. Maybe I'd get a shot, right? And then they gave me the shot before I even had to do that, And so, because I didn't believe that I could just jump into the sales job, I thought I had to start lower first, like sweeping the floors, So
I think that's what we all believe. You believe that you have to do this progression that society tells you need to take. You need to
yeah,
start here, and then you need to take this step, and then you need to take that step, and so on and so forth. Elon Musk said something about goals. I think he said, if you take your goal that you want to achieve in 10 years and you try to achieve it in 6 months, there's a likelihood that you'll fail, but you'll be much further along in 6 months than you would have thought. And your 10-year goal would then potentially only be a 1-year goal. In the same vein, if you don't put those expectations and you eliminate what society tells you should be the case or the progressions that you should take, and you
yeah.
just go at it and just say, okay, I think I can do that, let me just start there. There's a good chance that you can actually start there. You're the only one setting the limiting factor on all of it anyway.
Isn't it funny? Like I think of that horse chained to the chair all the time, the little plastic chair roped to the chair, and the horse doesn't think it can move. We do that to ourselves all the time. That limiting belief. It's like I've learned a little bit more shoot for the moon. And I say this on podcasts these days. I don't care. I'm gonna be a billionaire, and I'm not that interested in the money. I'm interested in the changes that I want to make. Like I know that money is a tool. I know like what I do with my resources right now. I know when those resources are like put on steroids and having $1 billion company, I know what I'm going to do then. It's like now it's not about making the money. It's about like I have to fulfill this mission because my missions are important for the world and I need this tool that is money to do that, right? And so I shoot lofty, but that wasn't always the case, right? And I tell business people too is like don't be afraid to shoot a little bit high, right? There's certain businesses, and that's fine, that are built to be small businesses, and that's all they'll ever be, right? And know that though, intentionally, right? And there's certain businesses that can be way more bigger or capable, or you notice some pivots along the way, and that becomes the bigger business. But be intentional with why you're doing things, where you want to go. Like when we first started businesses and we don't know any better, we just start with what we think we can achieve, like my lube tech job, like I knew car stuff, and so that was my first business. It wasn't my favorite choice even of the businesses I was considering. It's like I did it because it made me the least amount of uncomfortable, right?
Mm.
And I think that's what we do in our first business. And I believe I did almost as much as you could possibly do in that business. Um, to date. It's like that's why it was time to go. It's like because I couldn't grow it anymore. I honestly was looking at a third and fourth location. I couldn't find the people. I couldn't find enough skilled people in the world to fill the demand that I had, you know? So it was only going to be so much, you know? And then I don't want to get too far off track, but I kind of think it's relevant when you're in these businesses, you know, like pay attention to the pivots. I missed a $600 million pivot, you know? I was like, I developed a lighting system that wasn't existing on the market, an LED system. I would sell out of it. And then I worked with a manufacturer in Asia. I had it built. I would sell out of them faster in my own facility than I could ever think to put them on Amazon. But I was so dogged down in the business operations, I didn't focus on the lighting systems, and I should have, right? I should have sold off the operations, focused on the lighting. I would have sold a $600 million company, right? So pay attention to your pivots too, because if you have that small business, you know, it's like you're going to see introspectively opportunities, right? Be open to the opportunity of the pivots. I make this point all the time. Where would Netflix be if they continued just shipping DVDs, right? Watch for that stuff.
No
I wasn't
doubt.
smart enough to do it the first time.
Well, you live and you learn, hopefully. At least that's
Yeah.
the goal. But
Yeah.
I can totally resonate with that. So I had a fitness studio for 10 years, which I just got out of last year. I closed slash sold it. I can't technically say I sold it because I didn't really exchange all that much money for it. But nonetheless, um, whenever I first started the business, for the first 5 or 6 years, I started the business because I was always in the gym. My brother-in-law had hired me to run his gym whenever he bought it when I was in college. So I did that. I
Wow.
started training people. It was fun. I enjoyed it. It was in a small town. The next progression, of course, was getting in my own spot. So I got myself a 1,200 square foot spot, had about 30 members or so. That grew, it expanded. About 5 years down the road, we needed more space. I moved to a bigger space in the same small town and grew
Yeah.
and expanded. And then it stopped. And I'm like, ugh, why is it stopping? Because I wanted to do all these things. Of course, I wanted to,
Yeah.
yeah, right. I wanted to have more locations. I wanted to potentially franchise. I wanted to potentially do
Yep.
this, that, and the other thing. And I wanted all of this stuff. And I'm like, "Ah, I know that this model can work well, but why isn't this happening?" Now, whenever I first started business, I went to a bunch of seminars, and one thing that stuck out in my head, I can't remember who said it, and it's been said 1,000 times, but um, someone said location, 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 and I'm like, oh, cool, location, location, location. Like our building was right on the main road of the little town that I was in. I'm like, that's a
Yeah.
perfect location because it's right on the main road. What I
Yeah.
didn't recognize were the three parts of the location. Right, we were in a small town,
Yeah.
12,000 people, mostly urban, so that location, number one, was not a good spot, the small town. Even Northern Kentucky didn't really understand our model. There were a
Yeah.
few studios that were like it, but Northern Kentucky didn't understand our model. That's location number two. Yeah, I was on the front road. I was on the main road of the small town, but the small town, Northern Kentucky didn't understand what we were doing. If I were in Cincinnati, which is only 5 miles, 8 miles down the road, it would have been a completely different story. I
Yeah.
potentially would still, I would have 3 or 4 locations by now. But
Yeah.
to go along with what you were saying, make sure you're intentional in the beginning. Make sure you kind of think through what you want to do and what you expect from the business in the beginning. If you want something big, if you expect something big, ask yourself, is what I'm going to start, is this fitness studio going to give me this big outcome that I want? If I would have asked a different question in the beginning, other than, oh, this is cool, I wonder if I started a fitness studio, if I would enjoy it. Yeah, I'd enjoy it. But I didn't think through the rest of the questions after the fact.
Oh, I completely, you know, like honestly, everybody looks at my first company and they're like, Tyler, like, you're amazing. You know, it's like I'm some hero, like because of the business it was in. We had clients like the Rolling Stones, the WWE. We did like some crazy, crazy stuff. And I exited in everybody else's mind in the world success, right? You know, like started it with $4,000 by living in a dirt lot with no electricity and running water, right? Like as much of a like bootstrapping story as you've ever heard. And honestly, it's only until recently that I don't regret the hell out of it. Like I keep thinking about my opportunity cost. It's like I keep thinking about like I didn't shoot for Pixar. I think Pixar's amazing. You help kids dream. Look at that. I didn't create Disney. I didn't create, Apple iPhone, like I didn't. I took 10 years of my life and I didn't create that, And so like it was a big regret, even though everybody else saw it as a success, my opportunity cost, but then I have to realize now, like my business that I work on now is because of the first business I ever had. Right. And like I needed all those lessons. I can spot problems in people's businesses so quickly because that business gave me every single problem, every single disaster, every single sleepless night. Now I can walk in, look at a PL, look at an operation, look at a software, and I can be like, you don't need that. What's wrong with that? This is what you need to do to fix this. I've been in the room with like high paid consultants that say, hey, I'm going to be quiet now because he knows way more what he's talking about. It's like it only comes from I got my ass kicked on my first business. It's like, and so that ass kicking is what I needed to like really pursue like what is now Glaive, like our small business tech company that we're working on. So I guess the road eventually leads there, even if you don't always see it.
I I can resonate with exactly what you're saying, because I still talk to people. I still talk to our members from time to time, the ones that are still training at the gym, or ones that they came and gone, but I still see them periodically, or I talk to them periodically, and of course I feel the same. I know that the 10 years was not a waste of time per se, but
Yeah.
again, having the mindsets that we have now. My current starting point is at a lower scale than where you are, but I believe our mindsets are aligned similarly. With the mindsets that we have, it's we all that's exactly what we're looking at, is opportunity costs.
Yep.
What could I have been doing during that amount of time that would have gotten me to X instead of where I ended up?
Yep.
And while during that time, I helped again thousands of people. We had thousands of members come and go. We helped a lot of people. People loved being at the gym. We called our community the pack. We were very intentional. We did regular community outreach kind of events. We would go
That's
out, we
awesome.
would do Tough Mudders together. Like we did all of these things and we grew relationships. And there's people who have long lasting relationships they wouldn't have had if they weren't a member of that gym.
Yeah.
Um, and while I recognize all of that, there's still that little voice in the back of my head, right? That goes,
Yeah.
man, 10 years. What could I have done for 10 years? How could I have made a different decision in that 10 years? Just a different location, Jerry, just not in Alexandria, Kentucky, just up the
Yeah.
road just a little bit.
Yeah.
So, I think it takes a different kind of person to have that kind of thought, which is good because entrepreneurs are what change the world. And yet
Yep.
at the same time, it's good to have those people around you that are like, hey, Tyler, look, you did a lot, brother. Like you did a lot.
Yeah.
You helped a lot of people. You changed a lot. You did a lot. And of course, you in the back of your head, you want to go, well, I felt like I could have done a lot more. But
Yeah.
you got to go, yeah, I guess you're right. I did help a lot of people, but I totally understand what you're saying with that.
It kind of comes down to like who you are in reward systems too, and like I tell people all the time, close your eyes and like picture like Happy Gilmore's like happy place, right? But picture instead your success place, right? What does that look like, right? And for me and you, it's very similar. It's like big, right? We have big goals, it's like, so success to us looks like that, right? And actually, it's perfectly okay if success looked like running that little gym and influencing people's lives and helping them save weight and like helping them. Like one of the saddest things I ever saw is I retired and moved to Greece, and I take a cruise and I see all these people that had worked like their 9 to 5 for 60 years. They couldn't even get off the damn boat to go
Mm.
see some of the amazing sights of the world, right? That's what fitness does for you. So it's like for us, we need more, right? For some people that is what they want. And then like I would implore, like in imagining that success vision, Happy Gilmore mission, it's like make sure you're not seeing the marketing version, right? If you close your eyes and you're seeing the marketing version, because people make billions of dollars to market you the version of success that like you think you should have. I mean, find your own, right? And that sounds like what you and I are trying to find too. It's like my version of success is huge. you know, but it's not for the fancy car, the big house, the Hollywood girlfriend. You know, it's like, I want to change people's lives. I want to and this is a point that I can make very succinctly, I think, is like, I tell people, don't do what you love in this world. Do something you hate. Open a business. There's no better way to solve something you hate than opening a business. So find that thing you hate and open a business that solves that issue, right? And I hate the fact that it's hard for underdogs to get in business. I hate that the government makes it crazy with the red tape. You know, it's like, you know how hard it is for the small business people that come in here to figure out the TPT Arizona sales tax system, and you're collecting it for them. You get paid like pennies to collect the sales tax for them, right? It's like, I want to make these processes easy. Okay, AZ State, you want us to collect the sales tax for you, that's fine. Don't make it so complex. And I'm sorry, it's easy enough for me because I've been doing it a long time, but the new business owners, it's not easy for. And what we're keeping out of there is the underdog business owners. You know, it's like, and that's a passion of mine, as you can tell. And that's why it's like, we have a facility here. People can come in anytime they want. They can get free help, right? And that free help turns into technologies that we build when we see the pain point long enough. And then we turn that into online technology, right? So we can now benefit the country. That is what we're working on, right? And it's solved from, I hate that. I hate that the middle class is dying. I hate that the American dream is dying. Glaive does all these things. I'm going to drop one stat and then I'll stop rambling. But it's like the GDP for small business in 1950, the key American dream ideal, one single working parent, like car, house, all that, 78% GDP small business. Today, it's 47%.
Mm.
Nobody's paying attention to this. You know, everybody out there, Robert Reich, these guys, they want to talk about like, hey, we got to stick it to the big guy with the tax. No, you have to embrace the small business person. You have to embrace the American dream. You know, the hard work is the hard work. Make the rest of it streamlined. Don't confuse them with the tax and like, when do I pay the IRS and how do I file an LLC? Because then you get these highway robbers that charge $1,000 to these small business people for an LLC. Average business start cost is $6,000. So a sixth of that is going to an LLC, a big major company that's never opened a small business. Okay, I'm going to pause now, Jerry. I'm like taking up, like, now I'm getting on my soapbox and, you know.
No, that's good though. I've never looked at it from the perspective of something that I hate. I don't even know that I've heard that perspective, but I see it 100%. Again, being somebody who hates seeing people that don't believe in themselves, being somebody who hates seeing people out of shape, who hates seeing people rely on the healthcare system, who hates seeing people rely on big pharma, who hates seeing people, so on and so forth. I 100% on board with that idea.
Yeah.
But your belief in entrepreneurship is very obvious through and through. But it doesn't, like you said in the beginning, you didn't have that in your early 20s because you just kind of thought that you were going to go through and end up, well, what you said in the beginning, you thought you were going to be a factory worker, but
Yeah.
gladly that didn't
Something.
work out to be the case. So where did the entrepreneurship start to come in? I know that you started with cars. How did you start to believe that then you could be an entrepreneur all of a sudden?
You know, I got forced into it really. And like, I guess luckily, some days I'm like, maybe that wasn't so lucky when you're having an ass kicking day. It's hard, folks. Like being entrepreneur is hard. You want something easy, go get a 9 to 5, be
But
really
Tyler,
smart
isn't
with
it
your,
nice? You can make your own schedule. You make all the
yeah.
money. You can do
Oh, you're
everything.
vacationing all the
Yeah, oh yeah,
time,
isn't
you
it
know?
nice?
Yeah. Yeah. Ferrari, the first day you start, you
First
know,
day,
it's like,
they hand it
yeah.
to you. Here's the
Yeah.
keys.
I mean, picture Tyler living in the desert in 125 degrees. You know, he has $4,000 to start his business. You know, like I'm almost tempted to tell the extremely embarrassing story when I finally moved out of the trailer, but I'm probably going to save that for today. Why, like, I finally made that decision, but I didn't pay myself really for years. You know, like I put every dime into the business. I worked 120 hours a week, had no, I didn't date for years. You know, it's like had no relationships this way. The only thing I made time for is like I worked out and I trained mixed martial arts. You know, like other than that, it was work all the time, always. You know, it's like, and that's what business is. You have to give to get, right? You know, in the end, the reward's there. I believe that because I believe that people that don't quit will succeed. My business was an awful idea. Awful idea, you know. It's like, and like I said, I was pushed into it. You know, it's like I was working full time. I was going to school for the biochemistry program full time, and I was flipping cars on the side. I like started building classic cars in my backyard, basically. City of Scottsdale saw that I was stripping paint, and they're like, "You can't be doing this anymore." And so then I basically moved into like a little lean-to bay. There was no electricity in it. It was a dirt floor. And you could picture no walls, just like a steel top. And that
Mm.
was it. That's the way I started my first business. And, like that became, what? 7, 14, 20, 21,000 square feet facility, something like that. The property anyways, second largest powder coating system in the city, huge print department, complete fabrication department. I ended up doing like light manufacturing towards the end for new vehicle dealers. Joe Rogan and Elon Musk accidentally mentioned my company, on the Joe Rogan show. It's like, I opened a second location, did a lot of crazy stuff for CNN, ABC, BMW, places like that. That was the evolution, but it was all pushed into the government telling me like, hey, you can't be stripping paint in the backyard. And it's like, okay, well, I'm just going to do this for a little while. And that little while became such hard work that I couldn't give it up. And I didn't give it up for 9 years. And in fact, it finally took my doctors telling me I had to give it up, and so like I'm thankful for it now. But because I didn't realize how out of alignment I had gotten with your business. And so realize that too. There's a lot of fear when you work so hard for something, and then like, here's the other like reward you get entrepreneurs for being successful. Nobody will ever hire you again. That's here's your reward. It's like, nobody's going to ever hire you again. You're unmanageable in their eyes. I don't care how many people out there that say entrepreneurial spirit, they don't want an actual entrepreneur in your business. So once you have business success, and like a lot of people say, Tyler, well, once you work for yourself, you can't work for anybody else. I don't believe that. I've still got more to learn. If I could find an incredible leader that would hire me now, I'd say this probably as of 2, 3 years ago, like now, like there's no way I'm focused on what I'm doing, but in general, like I've still got more to learn, it's like, I would take that, but nobody would give that to me. They're not going to hire me. So friends know how talented I am. I help people with their business all the time, but I didn't want that, right? I didn't want that like friend shoe in the door, because there was some confusion when I first sold the company. What was next? I basically retired. And then I started helping small business people for free to try to like give back, right? And so when their businesses were failing or something like that, I would dive in, I would do accounting, I would do marketing, trying to help them save their business. And all that eventually involved, like turning into Glaive, basically. So
That's too cool. Um,
thank you.
s- it's pretty incredible though how you went from um, the school, how you went from college, and then just started doing that on the side, took one step at a time. We're kind of forced into that's an interesting tidbit that the government basically told you couldn't be doing what you were doing anymore.
Yeah.
But, I think that's how a lot of business owners kind of get into business. You kind of fall into it, you take one step forward, you just kind of keep going, and then eventually you just end up having a business. Most people just kind of stop there, and it ends up just literally being another job for them instead of them
Yeah.
continuing to develop it and it becomes something different. But you gotta have the gumption to kind of continue to take those steps. So when you did retire,
Yeah.
did you think in your head, hey, I got another plan after this? Or was it just like, hey, I'm gonna take some time off? Was it like, oh, I'm done? What did that time frame look like? Were you like, did you know that you wanted to do something next to help small business?
I kind of just like, I like to stay busy. I'm just that way, and then like, and I guess this kind of like sidelines, and I want to make sure to tell you how much I appreciate you today too. It's like we were talking some comment online. I can't actually remember exactly what it was, but I remember like the feeling, right? Like I appreciated you backed me up in something, and I appreciated that a lot, right? And I love chatting to people that have been part of my journey, because social media is one of the hardest things I do, right? I mean, you got to picture a kid that grew up with a father that tells you can never mention names, that you can't say to where we're moving next. He used to talk on code on the phone, right? Like he wouldn't say anything on the phone that wasn't gibberish. It's like you grow up that way, and you can imagine how afraid of the camera I was. It's like when you're supposed to keep secrets your whole life, like when you start talking about your life, like most of the stuff that I'll talk about now, if you dated me for 10 years, you wouldn't know, right? Like I wouldn't talk about this stuff until the last couple of years. I turned down 4 reality shows in my first business. I was a fool to do that, by the way. And I started doing things to try to help the world. I went to the children's home for 5 years and volunteered. I went to the animal shelter for years, and they like children's home only had Saturday mornings available for me, like at least for my schedule. I ended up lifting furniture at the children's home. I ended up lifting heavy dogs at the in the clinic at the animal shelter when they were passed out from surgery. It's like, and like that's the way I thought I was supposed to help the world. It's like, and I was determined I was going to do it with my body. And then I broke my back at the children's home. Um, and
Literally.
uh, and and that took it all away,
Yeah.
and like I lived for my 26 workouts a week. I was part of a fight club on Sundays. I lived for that stuff. I loved it. And then that was all taken away, and it was kind of like the world, God, telling me that, like, hey, I told you to talk about this stuff. I told you to inspire people. And honestly, like I think this is a key tidbit to like my mindset these days is shame on me. Right. I went to Nigeria. I volunteered over there. Member of my board of directors in one of my companies, makes $3 million a year. He's like, Tyler, I overheard that somehow like you were in Nigeria. He's like, why don't you ever tell me when you're doing these things? I would love to help. Tyler can make impact, right? But his buddy with $3 million and his buddies with $10 million and all that network can make way more impact. So shame on me for never telling anybody I went to the children's home too. It's like, had I told them, then I could tell them, don't take your donations to the other places that are for profit. Take your donations to the children's home. You donate furniture there, they sell it, they make money for the kids, right? Like how many people would have wanted to come with me to help? Shame on me. If you're going to do one act of charity, it's not worth talking about. If you're going to be involved in a cause every single day, you better talk about it, because impact is more important than what other people think. So facing these fears, I ended up starting the Bully podcast, right? And I actually came back to film season 2 when I was retired, and ended up buying the production studio, starting Glaive, all that sort of stuff. I knew I didn't totally know. Part of you wants to go and you're like, I'll just sit on the beach, like I'll, like sell coconuts for a living, or not, you don't have to really make a living. So I'll sell coconuts to keep busy, or whatever you're going to say, like tour guide, that sort of stuff. And like part of me, like sometimes it's like, I probably should have done that. Like something more simple, something like, laid back, like I have to keep busy. So doing something, but then it's like, nah, I want to change the world. It's worth now the heartache of getting back into businesses. I have several businesses I'm involved with. I get my ass kicked daily. Still I'm dealing with problems again. I have a little of the anxiety that my doctors tell me I was supposed to stay away from stress because I had stomach issues. It's like I have a little bit of that coming back, but in the end of my days, I would regret not jumping back in, and so that was the answer. I'm not the guy that's going to dance off into the sunset. I wouldn't enjoy that. I need to make impact on this world. Now I'm at a point where I've built my mind, body, my spirit, like my work ethic, all that aligns to being the right avatar to accomplish the big things that I need to next. Right. So why would I give that? Why would I set that avatar on the sideline after it's taken this long to build it? So no,
I
that's what got me out.
Yeah, no doubt. I Yeah, when I got out of the business last year, I'll tell you, there was definitely a big stress relief. Now, I had no intentions of just, like you said, sitting on the sideline. I didn't have a quote exit. Like I said, literally, I pretty much gave the business away. But that is what it is. Even still, I could have chosen to kind of chill and relax for some period of time. But to go to your stress point, um, it was a small team. We only had 5 employees, and but you're dealing with people. We were a service-based business, so there's a level of stress there. No matter what size business you have a level of stress. You just have higher problems with a bigger business. And
Yeah.
so I felt myself when it went away. I'm like, oh man, that feels nice. I don't like all of this just kind of like lifted off and went and stayed there. And I'm like, man, this feels good. So like right now, it's just me and I run the podcast, and I put my content out and I do most of the basic stuff. I got an assistant that helps, and I don't have all of that to deal with. But in the back of my head, I'm like, I also can't wait to build something else, which I know
Yeah.
is coming, but I'm trying to appreciate this time where it's just me and I'm doing most of the work and I don't have to worry about anything else until I jump into that, because I know I'm going to jump into that. And I know once I'm into it, it's going to manifest itself and just expand into this whole being again. Like you said, I know that
Yeah.
that anxiety is going to come back. I know those sleepless nights are going to come back. I know all of that's going
Yeah.
to come back, but I'm kind of excited about it. So again, I think it's a temperament thing with people like us.
Like, and the thing is, it's like I was lost on my original dream or mission or whatever and I started a couple other businesses along the way too, like of things that I saw as opportunities, very like obviously involving money, which we have to make in business. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't make money in business. You have to, it's absolutely important. But you can align a business to, like I said, a mission, something you hate. It's like my first business made it not because it was a good idea, not because like I'm a business genius, not because it's because I outworked all the problems. And like I literally I wrote a book actually because people told me to, on all the disasters that happened to me in that business. Like it was so many that people were like, Tyler, you got to write a book. Like worst luck of all time, right? People are talking about having good luck in business. I never had any good luck. I outworked the bad luck, right? And it's like, but like I did that out of sheer like proving them wrong, and having something, being afraid, and it's a hell of a motivator too when you're like homeless or make the business work, because that's my choices: homeless or make the business work. So those are incredible motivators. But what I've realized is better now, and like I would implore you to do this too, because we sound like we're in similar scenarios. Wait for the business that's a mission. Wait
Mm.
for the thing you hate to solve, And like I make it really dramatic because I want people to really analyze it. But that could be something as simple as like, I can't stand the fact that I go out for a hamburger in this town and I can't find a decent burger with good customer service. If burgers are your thing, if you're a chef and you love to make people happy through their food, like see that as the thing you hate, like flip the script on it, right? And then you'll know how to analyze exactly how, and this is why it's genius too, exactly how to people buy feelings, they don't buy products. Now you're catering to the feeling of that, right? We all know that. It's like, and that's why it's like our competitors, and I'm almost afraid to say it out loud because they're going to come trounce me, like the second they know too much about me coming. But it's like LegalZoom and Zen Business. It's like, how can they help small business people the way that I can? Did they start on a dirt lot? I mean, even Mark Cuban, who's the face of Zen Business, says, work every day like somebody's taking it away from you, right? Mark, you got a family, I mean, you're not fat, but you're fat and happy. You're sitting at home. It's like Tyler out. I'm out here, Mark, every single day. I'm still working. I'm still doing the 12 hours. I'm gonna catch you. I'm gonna catch you. And not only that, but I don't know, Mark, Zen Business is not treating small business people right. They're not centric on it. I've seen some tricky maneuvers they're using on small business people that don't know any better. So, and I don't know if Mark knows that, but there needs to be small business people starting these kind of businesses for small business people, And so
Mm.
I got off on my tangent again, but things
That's
with
good.
Glaive and small business, it riles me up. I'm sorry.
That's good. I should connect you with a conversation I just had. The girl's name is Mimosa Jones Tooney. She started a school in New York called the Schoolhouse. She saw that the education system was screwed up, so she created a curriculum. Initially, she wasn't planning on actually building a school. She just wanted to build a curriculum and then try and get schools to adapt to it. But then she recognized that she needed to build essentially a model for the curriculum to make sure that it worked and to show that it worked. So
That's
she
awesome.
built a school. And the school, first of all, when I started doing research on her, when I watched the video for the school, I literally cried when I watched the video. Like
Oh, wow.
I was not a school person. Not that I was bad at school.
Yeah.
I did enough to get by, sort of like you, but I did enough to get by. It was fine. It was okay. I dealt with it. But
Yeah.
school was school. I mean, how fun can you really have unless you're a person who literally just love reading books and like dive into all of the studying and nonsense.
Yeah.
But anyway, like I got emotional watching the video because of all the hands-on stuff that they do and just how they interact with the kids. And I'm listening, like the whole video is kids, and they're all articulate. And it's pre-K through sixth grade. They're all articulate. They're all talking better than adults. I'm like, what in the world is this video? Like how how are these kids so articulate? But anyway, so she one of the things that they do that's in the curriculum is every January they start a business. All the
Huh.
kids all the kids have to start a business and then run a business throughout the year.
Yeah.
So one of the businesses that they start is a farm stand. They have to grow the they have to plant the seeds, they have to grow the garden, they have to pull everything from the garden, they have to then price it, and then every Thursday through the summer, they sell everything, and then at the end of the year, based on what they sell, they get distributions
I
from
love
like
this.
dude, it's
Love it.
so beautiful. I'm like, "Oh, that's
Yeah.
great." I was like, "So why did you decide to do this? Like, why did you decide to implement this as part of your curriculum?" She's like, "Well, entrepreneurship is just one of the most effective ways to build a number of skills." And I'm like, yes, that is so true. But
Yes.
so I think what you're doing is phenomenal, being able to help people in, I believe, and you're the same, the most effective way to be able to not only build skills and build belief in and of yourself, but also to just have the life that you want. Because again, uh, yes, in the beginning, you can't pay yourself. Well, can't is a strong word, but you're not going to make money
Yeah.
in the beginning. It's the
Sure.
tail end that you're working for. But
Yeah.
people
Yep.
struggle with the tail end. They want the
Yeah.
front end. They want it
Yep.
now. But if you can
Yeah.
wait till the tail end, then you can start to reap the benefits that people talk about. Because yeah, of course, there's the things and the money and all that. If you do enough work, if you work through the obstacles, if you build resilience, if you keep going, if you're willing to keep showing up, then you can get the tail end.
Without
Um,
a doubt.
but anyway, I just went on my own rant, and I don't think I had a purpose to it. But there,
No, I actually agree 100%. And then like sometimes it's even when you have that paycheck that could be had, right? I tell people don't go out and buy the fancy car immediately. Don't go out and like spend the money. Keep being there, right? And now what you do is you put barriers to entry in the way of your competition, right? And that's how we really won. Is like way beyond when Tyler needed to be in the trailer in the desert. Tyler stayed in the trailer in the desert, and Tyler saved up and bought the second biggest powder coating system in the city, right? It's like one of my major competitors is the richest man in the state. We whooped on him, right? And it was like literally he had the fanciest. I couldn't outspend him at all, right? But at the same time, I put barriers to entry in the smaller guys, and I treated everything like an experience. My first 50 customers, and if you're out there as a small business person, you want to know a hack. It's like my first 50 customers that came in the door, they all hugged me when they came in. We had that relationship, right? I didn't even have to market, it's like, because they would drag people in my door, it's like, so people don't realize, like, they all think they need marketing. Treat your clients well. They'll drag 5 more people back in, right? And that was the key to our success. And then offering an incredible experience, it's like, you can do those things for free. Those are free. That's your best form of marketing. Don't spend all the money on marketing and then not even answer the phone for one. So yeah, I like it's so much easier than people think, in the ways that you think it's hard, right? And it's so much harder in the ways that you would think it's easy, right? So, yeah, I applaud that woman, by the way. That's exactly the way the world should be thinking. I believe that education now, like, I was such a rebellious, like, anti-education guy, and now I'm like big education. Maybe not formal, like I am like a formal educated. I have an MBA, I have a biochemistry degree. I got a lot of value about those things. But the reason is because I put in too. I tell people this all the time as well. It's like, I don't go to my MMA gym and say, hey, I'm here, make me the best in the world. I paid my fee, No, I got to put in too. I got to train. I got to study. I got to like do all these things. Same with school. It's like, if you like, you can't just say, oh, I showed up. Where's my job? It's like, no, you look into things, you get involved with stuff. I did research in a spider lab, like that changed my life in a lot of directions, and tweaked my interests in things, it's like, so I like to say I have 1 degree for my hobby and I have 1 degree for my profession. It's like my biochem degree comes in handy all the time. I'm my own science experiment in the gym and fitness and that sort of stuff. I love that stuff. It's like, but at the same time, my MBA comes in handy. I got to take that bootstrapper background because I already had had success in business. And then I got to add some tools that I didn't know existed because I never worked in corporate America, really. It's like, so I added some things that worked for my industry. I met some incredible people. I got some teachers that are like become lifelong friends now. It's like, so I just do. You got to just do.
No doubt. Tyler, dude, I appreciate you so much. This was such a good conversation. I think we could just sit here and go back and forth for hours, if not days. Um, but us both being busy people, you being busier than me right now, we'll go we'll go ahead and let it be where it is. Where can people find you right now?
Yeah, I'm super accessible on Instagram at Tyler Uriah. Once again, I was afraid of the camera. So I started out like, how am I going to connect with more business people to help? So Tyler's my first name, Uriah is my middle name. That was my pseudonym. Full name is Tyler Uriah Copenhaver-Heath. You can find a website out there, Instagram. I have 2 podcasts, both for charity, Bully This and Underdogs, Bootstrappers, Game Changers. We have a docuseries that's going to be going to film festivals this year that where we support foundations all over the world. First episode, I will leak it, is in Cambodia. So please follow me on Instagram, like connect to all this stuff. Small business people, if you need a life raft, a like question or whatever, reach out to me on Instagram. I'm easy to access. Like, don't go out and like make a foolish mistake when I can answer a question. I make time 5 hours a month too to book calls with people for free. Like, I'm never going to try to sell you anything. Like, you can come into the facility too anytime you want here in Phoenix, Arizona. We have desk space that's there for you to work for free as often as I can to jump over there. And if you haven't noticed from my energy, I'm over there more often than I should be, not getting my own stuff done. Right. And so please, if I can help you, please reach out. Jerry, such an honor. Like, I'm glad we've connected on social media and stuff. Like I said, like, I wish I could bring up the exact example where you supported me in it, but it meant a lot to where I'm still thinking about it. And so, yeah, thanks so much for what you're doing, all you're doing. And yeah, keep making it awesome in the world. I appreciate you.
Well, we'll both keep doing the same thing, and I'll make sure to put all of that in the description so everyone can easily find all those links. Tyler, thanks so much, brother. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.